I'm Jack Bradley in for Steve Lance tonight. The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to revoke the temporary protected status for 350,000 Venezuelans. It's a move that immigration attorneys say could make more people vulnerable to deportation. Now, the case is the latest in a string of emergency appeals by the Trump administration to the High Court. Last week, the government asked the justices to allow it to end temporary protected status, or TPS, for hundreds of thousands of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem rescinded Biden-era extensions of TPS for those nationals shortly after Trump took office. At least 4 lawsuits were filed challenging Noem's moves. Under the TPS, people have temporary legal status in the U.S. and can get work authorization. It was established as part of the Immigration Act of 1990, and the program grants legal immigration status to individuals from nations impacted by armed conflict or natural disasters for about up to 18 months at a time. Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiating a ceasefire. That's according to President Trump, who made separate phone calls to leaders of both countries today. But potential terms of a ceasefire remain unclear. Joining us now live to discuss is White House correspondent Iris Tao. Good evening, Iris. What's the president saying about the war?
Good evening to you as well, Jack. After holding an over 2-hour-long phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier today, President Trump says Russia and Ukraine have now agreed to start negotiating immediately about a potential ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. The president adds that the Vatican has expressed interest in hosting the next talks. While signaling progress, President Trump also again warns that the U.S. will pull out of talks if the two countries cannot come together. Watch.
Big egos involved, I tell you. Big egos involved. But I think something's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'd just back away and they're going to have to keep going. Again, this was a European situation.
Back in March, President Trump said he was angry with Vladimir Putin, adding that he might add further sanctions against Russia as weeks of trying to negotiate a deal didn't come to fruition about a final result. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine also hold low-level talks just last week in Turkey. But Zelensky criticized Putin for not ending up showing up himself personally. But today, though, President Trump says he does believe that Putin wants an end to the war, adding that their conversation had an excellent tone. Watch.
I believe Putin wants to do it. Now, if I thought Putin didn't want, I mean, that's what I do. My whole life is like deals, one big deal. And if I thought that President Putin did not want to get this over with, I wouldn't even be talking about it, because I'd just pull out.
What did you hear that gave you confidence that he does want peace versus buying time?
I think he's had enough.
One thing that President Trump did not mention today, though, was what he believes the end game of the war should look like. He has previously told reporters that he thinks it's unlikely for Ukraine to get back its territory that have been lost. But today, he says that it's up to the two countries themselves to discuss the specific terms when it comes to a potential deal. And now Putin, after talking with Trump today, says that Russia is ready to work with Ukraine on a memorandum on a potential future peace agreement. But he again insists that any deal needs to address what he calls the root causes of the war, which is why Russia invaded Ukraine in the first place. And Zelensky, who actually talked to President Trump both before and after Trump called Putin, says that Ukraine insists that it will need to keep its troops and not withdraw its troops from its territories. Of course, now it remains to be seen if in the upcoming days and weeks any progress can be actually made and if the next talks will happen soon before the two warring countries. Jack.
And Iris, Trump today also signed a bill into law. It was supported by both sides of the aisle. Tell us more about this.
Sure. So at the Rose Garden earlier this afternoon, President Trump signed what's called the Take It Down Act, which criminalizes revenge porn as well as non-consensual deep fake images. And this bill passed both chambers in Congress overwhelmingly, President Trump praising its bipartisanship. Watch.
And thanks also to the 99 senators and 408 members of Congress who voted in favor of the bill. Wow, I wish we could get that vote some other things. We have another bill coming up. Do you think we'll get that vote? Maybe not. We should, but we probably won't. With our First Lady, though, we've shown that bipartisanship is possible.
And the bill signing today also marked a major policy win for First Lady Melania Trump, who championed the bill as part of her continued Be Best initiative. Jack.
Thank you for that update, Iris. And now House Republicans move forward with their self-imposed reconciliation bill deadline despite clear opposition from the rightmost flank of the GOP conference. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has the latest from Capitol Hill.
The ayes have it. The motion's agreed to. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is ordered, reported favorably to the House of Representatives with a favorable recommendation.
4 House Republicans, Congressman Roy, Clyde, Braheen, and Norman, voted present, not against, and noted favor, but present during the markup of the reconciliation bill in the Budget Committee over the weekend. These 4 House Republicans remain in opposition to the bill as it stands, but Speaker of the House Mike Johnson remains optimistic that it will be passed by Memorial Day.
This is arguably the largest and most comprehensive piece of legislation that Congress has worked on in probably generations, one of the most in the history of the country. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of preferences and ideas on how to handle all that. And so we anticipated all through the process that we would come to this point and there would be some minor modifications in a manager's amendment to clean up things. We got a few issues to resolve.
Republicans in blue states managed to negotiate an increase in the state and local taxes deduction cap from $10,000 to $30,000, but are still being pressed by their constituents to explain the budget cuts in the Medicaid budget in the reconciliation bill.
Well, I know nationally it's 1.5 million that are not eligible. If you're not eligible, you should not be receiving benefits. It's as simple as that. That makes you a fraudster if you want to try to act like Republicans are trying to kick off people who are eligible for the program. That is not the case. If you don't adhere to the work requirements for able-bodied individuals who do not have dependents, then yes, you could lose.
Well, spending hogs in red states want to see larger spending cuts included in the reconciliation bill in order to support it.
This bill falls profoundly short. It does not do what we say it does with respect to deficits. I am a no on this bill unless serious reforms are made today, tomorrow, Sunday. We're having conversations as we speak, but something needs to change or you're not going to get my support.
Republican leadership is balancing different viewpoints within the GOP conference, while many lawmakers are already strategizing for the 2026 midterm elections.
But we need to make sure that we are thinking not just about next election, but also next generation and care what's happening with our reckless spending, which has really put our country in a very, very dangerous fiscal situation.
Now, Jack, hear this. The House Rules Committee is scheduled to meet at Wednesday, 1 a.m. in the morning. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has not ruled out working over the weekend, over Memorial Day weekend, in order to reach a consensus and also meet that self-imposed Memorial Day deadline and pass the reconciliation bill, send it over to the Senate. Back to you, Jack.
Thanks, Luis. Now, with One Big Beautiful Bill advancing its way through Congress, what will it take to make it to the president's desk? And how might it affect everyday Americans' wallets? To dive into this, we're happy to have on Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, thank you very much for joining us here today.
Yeah, I'm welcome to be here. We appreciate you asking me to be on.
The House Budget Committee narrowly passed the Big Beautiful Bill. Now, this bill would extend Trump's tax cuts, boost border funding, and reform Medicaid and food assistance programs. Here's a quick soundbite from the White House this morning.
Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 per year will pay about 15% less in taxes after this legislation is passed. The average family with 2 children's take-home pay will be up to $13,000 higher because of the increase in wages and reductions in tax obligations.
Congresswoman Van Duyne, if passed, how would this bill affect everyday Americans' pocketbooks?
Well, I think you just had a great summary of it right now. I mean, you're going to see more dollars in people's pocket, more job opportunities. They're also expecting 4.2 million more jobs in the private sector as a result of this bill. The purpose of this bill is to stimulate the economy, to get manufacturing jobs back, to get more plants built. Is to get more people to have dollars in their pockets. I mean, we're increasing the standard deduction, we're increasing the child tax credit, we're decreasing regulations, we're giving people back, extending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act provisions that are set to expire at the end of this year. All of those things are great for working families. But, I will disagree a little bit in what you said earlier, that this provides a fix for Medicaid. It absolutely doesn't. And I think that's a lot of the disagreements that we are having right now, is that we want to see more changes in Medicaid. We want to have people who are able-bodied adults who should be working off of Medicaid. We want to have people who are in our country illegally not have to not be paid. We're paying for them to be on Medicaid who shouldn't be. We want the single mom of 2 kids who's disabled to be able to be getting those benefits. And unfortunately, it's quickly drying up because, we all the waste, fraud, and abuse that's in the system. So I think this is a difficult situation that we're in. This bill has to pass. We have got to extend the provisions from the TCJA that are set to expire at the end of this year. Otherwise, people are going to see some of the highest increases that they've had. They're not going to have the opportunities. Businesses are not going to invest. We have got to see that happen. But at the same token, we want to make sure that we are not increasing the deficit, that we are cutting regulations, and that we are experiencing the kind of growth that we saw in 2017. So when we're looking at how we're going to pay for this bill, part of it is growing the economy, and that's exactly what we're focused on.
And the House Freedom Caucus is demanding more cuts to the bill, while the Senate Republicans are looking into breaking it up into multiple parts. At this point, what will it take for the plan to make it to Trump's desk?
I think it has to have, he's had a lot of campaign promises, including no tax on tips, that's in this bill. No tax on overtime, that's in this bill. People are confused about the no tax on Social Security. We're not able to do that. It's specifically prohibited in reconciliation, but we do have tax benefits for seniors, which would offset the Social Security costs. So that basically is in there. He's looking at increasing the provisions and incentives to bring manufacturing back. That is in there. There's no taxes on American domestically produced automobiles. That's in there. We're trying to get as many wins and for this president as we possibly can. We're going to have to do that. But at the same time, we're also going to have to make sure that this bill is not increasing the deficit and that we are looking at Medicaid reforms that are badly needed.
And Trump's recent visit to the Middle East has been marked by diplomacy and hundreds of billions of dollars in investments just over the past week for the U.S. This is a region that China has been working to influence. By going to the region, what message is Trump sending to China?
I think he's sending China, we are at the table. For the last 4 years, if you look at trade deals or other areas where we have not been leading around the world, there has been a deficit. I think China has tried to fill that void. I think by being as active as this administration, and specifically this president is, in going around the world and meeting with these world leaders, he's been very clear. The United States is at the table. We're going to negotiate these deals, and we are a world leader. I think that is very clear to China that we are a competitor and we're a winner. We need to make sure that we are able to provide energy for our own country and others, that they're not reliant on Russia, that they're not having to pay Iran, which is funding terrorist activities. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. I mean, there's a push and pull, and everything does have an effect on something else, whether or not it's a relationship with the Middle East, with Iran, with Iraq, the support that Russia is giving now, and the relationship that's building between Russia and North Korea and China. Those are all things that we have to be aware of. But by the United States being there, having these other countries have those financial interests within our country makes them much more influential, I think, with our relationship. And they are much more concentrated on the success of our country rather than its failure.
Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne, thank you very much for your insights here today.
Thank you very much. I hope you have a great week.
Former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. His office releasing details about the diagnosis yesterday, saying the cancer cells have spread to the bone. In a statement, the office announced that the former president and his family are seeking treatment options. Prostate cancer is assigned a grade based on how the cells look under a microscope. In this case, Biden was diagnosed with a Gleason score of 9, which indicates highly aggressive cancer that needs urgent treatment. After the news broke of his diagnosis, the former president received support from both sides of the aisle. President Trump, writing on Truth Social, quote, Meliana and I are saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and the family. We wish Joe a fast and successful recovery. Trump also reiterated concerns about transparency issues surrounding Biden's health.
You have to say, why did it take so long? I mean, this takes a long time. It can take years to get to this level of danger. So it's a very, very sad situation, and I feel very badly about it. And I think people should try and find out what happened, and somebody is not telling the facts. That's a big problem.
Biden then responded to all the well wishes, saying, quote, "Cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support."
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.